Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto with Full Curl Precision. Again, for those, check out the hat. Check out the website, fullcurlprecision.com. Yeah, we have hats, shirts, and ammo boxes. We're getting a little bit more added onto there. You can even do some customized stuff like engraving. Help us get to 200 subs. We're making progress slowly, but we're making there. But for tonight, we're doing a little bit of a classic ammo comparison. A lot have been comparing heavy for caliber cartridges, but we're doing light for caliber, speed demon side of it. So what are we doing? The 7 rem mag versus the 300 win mag. Classic battle's been discussed for a long time. But most of the time when people talk about it, they're talking, mid weights, heavier weights, this, that, and the third. Well, what happens if you lighten them up and you're going light for caliber? Now, I'm not talking about too light for caliber because there's always going like the really light stuff. But what happens when you go with your typical lighter weight hunting weights for like mid game, like, deer, pronghorn mule deer, or even let's say light for caliber, but you're keeping your ranges reasonable for even animals like elk or moose or whatever. Well, it kind of gets you some interesting numbers. Now, while I'm not doing this with a chronograph, I am doing this with Gordon's reloading tool. And, there's a lot of reloading data on 300 Win Mag and 7 Rem Mag. So I'm guessing that these numbers are pretty close. So let me turn the camera around and we'll get into it. So for now, we're kind of going over the basics. So I just wrote down some information. So we kind of kept some parameters the same, and I like to try to keep it as fair as I can. You got a 24-inch barrel. I'm pushing this thing, both of them, up to 65,000 PSI. Yes, you can do that. Going light for caliber. So we're going to start with the 300 Win Mag. Using 73.1 grains of N550, you're getting 3297 feet per second. And I know you can get a little bit faster than that with certain powders, but, basically 3,300 feet per second with a 150 grain bullet. And there's the bullet, the 150 grain AccuBond. And the BC of 0.435. That's actually not too bad. And a little over 3,600 foot-pounds. 7 Rem Mag, you got 69.8 grains of N560 with 3251 feet per second, 3286 foot-pounds, with a 140 grain AccuBond and the BC of 0.4485. So your BCs are pretty close. And your weights are only 10 grains difference. So when you add that up, let me swap out here. I'll pull this up. And by the way, there's the website. Here's just a couple. Here you go. Got the 7 Rem Mag on the left, 300 Win Mag on the right. That's the Magnum insert. It's fairly thick. There you go. Just kind of get what it looks like. Here you go. This is my 270 loads. And yeah, that's a 10 rounder. Anyway, going to the Federal Ballistics app, if we type in some information, so we're going to start with the 7 Rem Mag, a 140 grain bullet, and we're going to switch this out to 0.485. And we're going to keep a lot of this the same. We're just going to go out to 500 yards. We don't need to go ultra far with it. So here we go. I'm gonna zoom in. There we go. So when you're looking at this and you got, I did not change the velocity. I'm sorry, my bad. I forgot to change the velocity. Wouldn't it be nice if I did that? And we're looking at 3251. There we go. That's a little better. Like, man, that seems like an awful lot of drop. Anyway. So at 200 yards, you're having you're dead zero, but you're still over 2,900 feet per second, 2634 foot-pounds. That's pretty good, right? But look at it. If you go to 100, you're not even a full inch high in order to have that zero for 200 yards. So really, really good. And your maximum point blank range is almost 300 yards. So you're only looking at 5 inches of drop, only 4.3 inches of drift in a 10-mile-an-hour full value wind. You're still at 2,750 feet per second and over 2,300 foot-pounds. And if you jump straight down into 500 yards, you're looking at only 29.2 inches of drop, 12.5 inches of drift, 2,446 feet per second, 1,859 foot-pounds. So you got a pretty good reaching bullet out there with that seemingly just 140 grain bullet. You can still be quite ethical on elk with that load, because remember, these are also bonded bullets, so they're going to hold together and drive through. That's a definite benefit. So we change up real quick. We're going to go to a 150 grain. Excuse me. All right. And we're doing 32.97 and 0.435. Other than that, everything else is the same. Look at this. Basically the same kind of trajectory, except the one thing that is different is if you jump straight down into the 500-yard mark, there's just a tad bit more drift. Instead of the 12.5, it's 13.9. So an inch and a half difference, not tremendously big, not that big of a deal. You can figure that out. Same amount of drop. But look at the velocity, 2,399 and 1,917 foot-pounds. So you're not really that much different, maybe about 50 foot-pounds difference. But that 300 Win Mag is holding pretty good. And honestly, I would have no problem in using a 150 grain bullet in an AccuBond on elk out to 500 yards. That would be absolutely, an absolute monster to use. And the best part about using a 150 grain bullet, actually in general, when you go light for caliber, and I've covered this before, so with a light for caliber, that bullet is a little bit shorter. So what happens is you have less surface contact with your barrel, less resistance. That's also part of what's helping you to really go faster. With less resistance in your barrel, that bullet also allows for less recoil. By the time you add it all up, because there's less resistance for that powder to push that bullet out the muzzle, there's less recoil to your shoulder. So you actually can get it's actually much more comfortable to shoot. But I'm going to say this. If you're hunting, typically, let's say you're going to have the one cartridge, and you're hunting multiple species, and let's say you're mostly hunting like whitetail or pronghorn or mule deer, and you're using a 7 Rem mag or a 300 Win Mag, you really should be considering going for these lighter for caliber bullets. They just aren't that tough of an animal. I mean, shoot, I don't think there's on your medium game species, a 270 with a 140 grain bullet will do everything that a 7 Rem mag with a 140 grain bullet will do on the same size game. So it's not really all that different. What I will say is this, though. You're going to get a little bit better velocity. Yeah, you're using significantly more powder, but you are getting better velocity. But when it comes down to everything added up, I will say this. If you're going to have a Magnum and you're looking to have a do-it-all, you're going to have a hard time passing up on these two. There's plenty of components. There's plenty of ammunition availability. Rifle selection is through the roof. You can select just about any rifle you want and at any price point you want. The other aspect is, again, when you're looking at it, having one rifle or one cartridge, but having multiple loads that you can hunt with. So that's actually kind of the benefit if you can do that. I personally, if I was going to have a 7 Rem mag for medium game, I'm sticking with 150 grains and under. And I did that a couple of seasons ago. We shot several whitetail, and I was hunting with the Federal Fusions, and not that much damage. Bonded bullets in general do a lot better job here in minimizing meat loss. And same thing when it comes to your monolithics. So if you're trying to find a good balance of expansion plus plus good construction, so it's holding together, so it sinks deep and passes through, doesn't destroy everything, you're going to have a hard time passing on bondeds or monolithics. I prefer bondeds. I feel like they, in general, shoot a little better, at least for the rifles I've had. But I just wanted to do that quick comparison so people can kind of have an idea. If you have a 7 Rem mag or a 300 Win mag, don't get so caught up in ultra long range that you forget that it's okay to just limit yourself. 400 yards, 500 yards. I know plenty of guys that I've met that hunt with those with a 7 Rem mag, and they live in areas where, like Arizona and New Mexico, where you can go after Coues deer. Well, those don't get very big. But what those guys do is they drop down their weight of bullet. They slow it down just a hair. And then they also tend to make sure they pick a bullet that doesn't explode. So no cup and cores. And they say they have pretty good success. Excuse me again. To make that progress. So that's all I have for tonight. And I want to, again, thank those who are customers who are putting in their orders for these boxes. You have no idea what it means to us to be able to see something we've worked hard on, to be able to be in the hands of those who can use them and appreciate them, and getting the positive feedback, but also other ideas. We're always trying to, have more ideas as far as how to improve the boxes, things like that. We appreciate all those feedback. So that's all I have for tonight, and we'll talk to you again.